Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Circle today and to the UBC Learning Circle. We today have Mitch and Jennifer here to talk about laughter as medicine. I'll introduce them a bit more shortly, but I'd like to first acknowledge the territory that we're on today, the unceded ancestral lands of the Musqueam people. Our lands are such an important part of our health and well-being. And I'd also like to acknowledge the First Nations Health Authority for generously funding the Learning Circle. So some of the topics that we have can be intense or emotionally triggering. Today, talking about hearing Mitch's personal story and talking about suicide prevention. These are important issues for our communities, and just remind folks that sometimes they can be emotionally triggering, and just to ensure that you're looking after yourself today, acknowledging your feelings, and if you need to talk to someone, to talk to an elder or a counselor or a colleague or a friend. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Melanie Rivers. I'm from the Squamish Nation. My Statlian name is Mwamowit, and I'm the Education Coordinator here at the UBC Learning Circle. I'd very much like to welcome Mitch and Jennifer here today. I'll have them introduce themselves more fully, but Mitch is an actor and a comedian and spoken word artist, and he's Plains Cree, and he's been doing work with Imagination Collective, and with a play and some stand-up comedy and some facilitation, and Jennifer here is Anishinaabe. She's the artistic director of Imagination and Beneath the Surface, and she's an actor, worked a lot in the areas of theater and creative arts, and is now host to the TV show Wild Archaeology. So really pleased to have you both here today.
Thank you.
And I will turn it over to you to start.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melanie. There we go. So, hello to all of you out there who are listening and joining us today for our Laughter as Medicine, and just kind of an update on Beneath the Surface Society and Imagination, formerly known as Collective, but now Imagination Productions. My name is Jennifer Brusso, and as mentioned, I'm Anishinaabe. I'm from Northern Ontario. I am the writer and director of the play Beneath the Surface, and the last time we visited I talked a lot about Beneath the Surface, and so I'm going to do just a quick overview, because most of the time we're going to hand this over to Mitch, who's going to share with you what he's doing with Laughter as Medicine. But definitely wanted to give kind of an overview of myself and what we've been up to. Imagination Productions has been in operation for, I guess we're going into the 8th year now, and 1999. Wow, where am I in time? I went way back. Okay, so anyways, I believe it was in 2009 when a tragedy happened within the community, and we lost a valuable, beautiful young girl, and she was my boss's daughter. At the time I was working at Vancouver at Aboriginal Transformative Justice Services, and my boss's daughter took her life, and there was all of these, there was layers to this story to understand, and this woman is a strong matriarch within our community, and she just kind of looked at me and just said, you need to do something about this. You need to write something, something so that kids know that this isn't the only choice that they have. And so out of that, I opened myself up to Creator, and, I said yes, without any clue as to what I was going to deliver, but I said yes. And out of that was birthed the play Beneath the Surface, and Beneath the Surface has toured for about 7 years went to schools and communities, into other theaters, and we've had a pretty incredible run with it. But in this past year, there has been major transition that's happened, because one of the biggest things with Beneath the Surface is we were touring with a theater company of about 15 people. And it was, you know, these gifts that we have, these are what we're sharing, you know, with people, and this is also what pays our bills. So, you know, we want to bring healing, but we also don't want to hurt ourselves in the process. So last year was a huge transition that took place in regards to Beneath the Surface and touring with it. And so that transition has now led us to where we're at right now. That's me. So out of Beneath the Surface, the play, we've got a society now, which is a not-for-profit grassroots outreach society. And so Beneath the Surface, the play is now being, it's in the process right now of being developed into a 7-week educational module program, like outreach program. And that will become way more available to communities on a broader scale. And that's what we've wanted all along. We've wanted the ability to outreach as far as we can, and we have so many people, even funders, that are interested in supporting us, but they couldn't figure out how to support a play that was like a chunk of people traveling, and that is wearing on you anyway. And this play is so healing, and it touches on so many things that with the education module, and I'm in Anishinaabe, so I use the 7 grandfather teachings as a way to create that dialogue and activities and some play. And so this module, this outreach program is going to be ready for probably March of next year. It looks like these guys aren't hearing us. I'm wondering if Dog Creek is having issues hearing us. Can Dog Creek hear us? We can't hear them, so...
Wave at us if you can hear us.
Can you hear us?
Okay. Yeah,
okay.
we're good.
Awesome. They want to know if... Oh. Can they hear us?
We'll get to Enid.
All right. So before I continue on with that, I do want to mention that, as you mentioned, I host a TV show called Wild Archaeology, and I think that that's really incredible in that I've toured with this play for 7 years and gone into our communities, and I've been talking about the stories beneath the surface. And when we do Beneath the Surface, and when we do a lot of the programming, and when Mitch goes into telling you about Laughter as Medicine and our outreach programming, we're touching on a lot of things beneath the surface that are fairly recent in our history. We're touching on a lot of things that are affecting our communities right now. We're touching on things that that happened in our grandparents' generation, which then in turn affected our parents' generation, which is now in turn is affecting our generation. But the beauty of how Creator works is, as landing this TV show and getting to be an educator on APTN, it's been really interesting because I'm doing this show, Wild Archaeology, where I get to do archaeology, and what am I doing? But I'm digging beneath the surface. And I like to parallel that with what I'm doing now, and because for me, even just doing that show has been such a reclamation. It's been such a I'm just like, I'm wide open now. My mind is wide open. When I'm looking at the ground, I'm actually looking at the ground in a completely different way because I know what's beneath my feet, and I'm just like, wow, because doing the show, I could be sitting in a unit that might be 10 feet deep, and I'm like 4,000 years in history finding artifacts and projectile points or arrowheads, and it's pretty exciting to be touching that deep of history, and recognizing that though with Beneath the Surface we've touched on such a closer time in history and the traumas that are really close to us right now, there's so much more in our history that we can go and learn about and realize what we come from and where we're going. So in doing Beneath the Surface, it's just and wild archaeology, it's just been a really nice parallel. So as we go on and as we continue to develop these new programs and these workshops that we do with Imagination Productions and Beneath the Surface Society, it's we're using a lot of our life experiences. We're using a lot of what Creator has brought into our lives as a way to create our programs, and I love the fact that, you know, now in touching on such painful trauma, that I can also touch on such incredible history and incredible things that we can go to and reclaim. I mean, I grew up very much with that whole concept of don't be an Indian. It's not going to do you any good. Just don't. And I'm like, do I have an option? Like, I don't know. Don't think I have an option. But you know, grew up off the reserve and went to, you know, the off reserve school. In fact, I even performed for many years in this building that I didn't actually realize until like I was like in my 20s that it was the residential school. And I remember the feelings in there, but I feel like the ancestors, even back then, were speaking to me, saying, tell our stories, tell our truths, tell our stories, tell our truths. So here I am, you know, doing this and working with incredible people like Mitch. And it's really exciting because I've been working in our communities for 22 years now. And I've traveled to probably over 300 communities in this country, both with Imagination, with Wild Archaeology, and with other organizations. So, yeah, I'm going to stop talking because I can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. I just want to touch on what Imagination is doing now. That's really exciting. So I touched on the fact that we're doing the outreach program, and that is going to be ready for March 2019. And we're working with a lot of elders, and we're working with the community here in Vancouver, and with amazing people like Mitch. And also another thing that Imagination is producing is a podcast, which we hope to have up and running by June at the latest. But it's called Sticks and Stones, as you can see our little logo here. And we're really excited about that because we're going to be able to have conversations in all four directions, bringing up, you know, talking about pretty much anything, things that are affecting our communities, opportunities for our youth, things that are happening in our lives, things that are inspiring us, things that can inspire you. So definitely keep an eye and an ear out for Sticks and Stones, and we're going to be putting out I don't know, what are we putting out? Warnings? Not warnings, that's not the word. Promotions! We're going to be promoting Sticks and Stones. And we're really excited about it. Mitch will tell you about his segment that he'll be having on Sticks and Stones because it's going to be pretty awesome. But we have an incredible team of both Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, and we really feel the importance of creating that relationship of bridge building and support of one another, and of honor and respect. And so we're really excited about Sticks and Stones. I think I'm gonna stop talking now because I'm sure people are gonna ask questions later, and I'm gonna pass it on to the incredible Mitch Saddleback. This is Mitch. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Danse Wapi Mahigan Asiga Sin. My name is Mitch Saddleback. I'm from the Samson Cree Nation in Musqueam, Alberta. I am very happy to be here in UBC and doing another talk. Where do I go from here? I guess I can start off with an introduction about where I come from. I grew up all over the place. I grew up in Alberta. I was born in Wetaskiwin, Alberta, and I grew up mostly in the Ermineskin town site in Musqueam. It was called Hobima back when I lived there. Me and my brother, we moved around with my mom a lot. I didn't grow up with a father. My birth dad actually committed suicide when I was a baby, so I have really no memory of him or that side of the family. It actually kind of made this weird like intersection of the Saddlebacks and the family that I grew up with, because I don't really, like, people always ask me like, oh, do you know so-and-so Saddleback, and I don't know any. I would like to, though. That's one thing I really want. When I go back home, I really want to connect with that side of the family, and I want to hear stories about my dad, and, you know, like, I have all these nice stories that I've heard about my father. Like, people say like, oh, you're funny like him, you recognize, like, I can see him when I look at you, but I don't really have that connection, so it's kind of a weird disconnect for me with my last name and stuff, but I'm kind of growing into it and discovering who I am. We moved around a lot. We moved to Edmonton. I went to Catholic schools in Edmonton. I was bullied in school. I used a lot of my humor to as a defense mechanism. I know, you know, that's been told time and time again, but it's really helped me. Like, I used to always say to myself, like, oh, that guy doesn't like me, I'm gonna try and make him laugh at least once this week. And that was kind of how I dealt with my problems. I remember like my teachers, you know, telling me that I should be a comedian someday. I had a teacher in elementary who said, someday I'm going to see you on Comedy Central. And she still sends me messages, and she's still like a huge fan of me, and it's really good to still have those connections. I always wanted to be an actor ever since I was little. Me and my mom used to watch the Academy Awards, and I used to be so in love with film. I grew up, me and my older brother, we'd go rent movies, and this was way back in the day when you can rent VCRs. And we used to rent like 5 old movies, and my mom would get the 2 new releases, and the 5 old movies my brother would rent, like, you know, like whatever, and we'd watch it. Like, I saw Pulp Fiction when it came out, and I was way too young to see that. And it really shaped me and what I wanted to do, and I really I wanted to see myself represented. I knew at a very young age that I was not represented on screen. I knew that when I did see myself on screen, it was a stereotype, or it was like, you know, just not flattering, and I really wanted to just be on screen. I really wanted to just be like the funny friend or something like that, like just a normal role that I didn't have to put myself through any kind of like uncomfortableness and things I wasn't really ready to be a part of. And I get lost sometimes in my thoughts. So yeah, I always loved acting, and I always loved stand-up comedy, and me and my brother is one of the funniest people that I know, and my goal was always to make him laugh. And we'd watch all these stand-up comedy specials when we were younger, and I always knew that someday I would at least try it. And yeah, about like 9 years ago, I decided to sign up for an open mic night, and I haven't really looked back. Like, I love being on stage, and I love talking to audiences, and like, I look at it as a form of like hypnotizing people to like think the way I think. That's actually why, can they see this logo here?
Yeah.
That's why I got Suki to, she asked me if she can design a logo for me, and I said I want a microphone on it, because that has been my weapon. In the last little while, I've done a lot of really good things with a microphone, and I just want to be a role model. I want to be a role model for young First Nations youth, because I didn't have one. I didn't have a positive male role model growing up, and yeah, I have 4 nieces now, My brother has another daughter on the way. It's 4 nieces, and they're why I'm doing what I do. They're what pushes me forward. I remember when they were just babies when I first moved here to Vancouver, and they were like the size of a loaf of bread, like 12 grain, and like when they started getting older and like opening doors like raptors and like asking me questions, and we have conversations now, and like I'm teaching them, and they're really excited for me to be acting, and I just get so much joy out of like inspiring them. They're my favorite people in the whole world, and that's why I'm doing what I do. I really want to be a positive influence in their life, and hopefully, be a positive influence in other people's lives, because I just feel like I really wanted to see myself represented on screen. So why not me? It's got to be me. If I'm on screen and someone else sees me, that's proof that you can do whatever you want to do. Like, I wanted to be on movies when I was 7 years old, and like last year, it's funny, we were supposed to do this last year, but I got a part in a new Liam Neeson movie that there's no trailer for it out yet. It's called Hard Powder. It's coming out this fall. I did 10 days on that, and it was so exciting, and it's so surreal to be on a movie set and to be walking around and to see like, that's my crafty table, like that's my bathroom where they set up for me, and I had a wardrobe and I had a hair guy, and it was just so perfect, and I really want to keep doing that, for sure. But I also I can't wait to tell my own stories, and I can't wait till it's actually my set and we get to tell our stories and teach that way. So when I was in high school in Wetaskiwin, I did this competition, this improv competition. I wasn't in any acting programs or anything. I just decided to randomly sign up for this improv competition, and we had this game called Life, and it was a serious improv activity. It wasn't supposed to be funny, and I did this monologue off the top of my head of about why my girlfriend was leaving to go to college or something, and I just decided to just kind of wing it and just go for it, and I made a couple of the audience members cry, and I won Best Male Performance that year. And my counselor in high school, she called me in, and I thought I was in trouble, but she said, I heard you like acting, and my husband is actually really good friends with an agent in Edmonton, and she gave me his contact information, and I went to go meet him, and he started sending me for parts, and I got a teen pregnancy documentary. I'm the narrator in that. I've never seen it. I'm also in an RCMP training video where I play a gang member. I've never seen that one either. My mom actually seen that one at a conference. She was like having dinner, and she looked up at the screen and she sees me, and she's like, "Oh my God, that's my son! He's like, hey, he's in the game. That's my son." I know it was really good because I was having a really bad day, and she called me and she told me that, and I was like, that made me feel so good. But yeah, I got these little parts here and there, and it was really good. I remember like being really, really happy and feeling really accomplished with what I was doing. I was doing what I wanted to do. So I decided to move to Vancouver 10 years ago, come August. And from there I decided to pursue stand-up comedy. I went to a film school, which I actually ended up not completing the program because I was going through addiction problems, and also I had my cousin who was my best friend. We lived together. The whole plan was we were going to move in together, and he got really sick and he ended up actually passing away, and it was like a huge loss for me, and I just felt this empty void of I was grieving. I still am grieving, actually. I'm just using my art to help with that. Like, you know, it's, people grieve differently, and my form of grieving was very unhealthy. I ended up using a lot of my resources, and I had nowhere to stay. I ended up sleeping outside for a while there, and I was in a really dark hole. It was a really dark place, and I didn't know how I was going to get out of this. And I decided to just randomly make a post on Facebook like, hey, does anyone have a couch that I can sleep on? I really need to get back on my feet. And my uncle Rex actually saved my life. He said, you can come stay with me as long as you need. And my uncle Rex was actually in a hip hop group called War Party back in the 90s, and he's still like very creative in the community. And we used to stay up late a lot talking about our future and talking about art, and he really inspired me when I was younger, because I remember seeing music videos with him on it and thinking like, that's so cool, that he's just following his dream, that's so cool. And cut to, you know, now, and I'm sitting on a couch with him talking about like, where do we go from here, like what's our next step. And I got a job as a dishwasher, and yeah, I was getting back on my feet, and I still felt this empty void that I didn't really know what it was. Something was missing in my life, and I'd lost contact with my agent after years of just miscommunicating, not talking to each other, and randomly sent him a message and said, hey, I don't know if you're still interested, but like I would really like to start acting again. I really want to start acting again. He put me back on his roster, and I went for like, you know, auditions here and there, and I ended up going through a lot of auditions where I was playing a drunk or an abusive boyfriend or a gang member, or like it was just back into that
Stereotypes.
the stereotypes, yeah. And I would usually be sitting, you know, ready to do my part, and like I would feel uncomfortable, and I'd feel dirty, and I'd feel like it wasn't right. I wasn't really happy with a lot of the stories that were being told. I guess that's what it comes down to, a lot of stories that were being told. And I randomly came across an audition for a play called Beneath the Surface, and it was actually an older email, or an older ad for it. The day had already passed for auditions, but I just decided, like out of a whim, just to randomly message, and I was like, hey, I know you guys are like, you know, not really taking parts anymore. I was wondering if you have any like available space. And Jen answered like almost immediately, like 15 minutes later. She was like, hey, absolutely, I would love to like come down and meet you. And I met with Jen, and we talked about the role. This character Cody, who was two-spirited, and immediately when she told me he was two-spirited, I immediately thought of my cousin, because my cousin was two-spirited, and I felt like he was kind of like speaking to me a little bit in how this role was just kind of like, it reminded me so much of him. And in meeting Jen, actually, like going to Jen's house for like meetings and rehearsals and whatnot, I remember the first couple of times, I actually haven't even told Jen this, but like the first like 10 times going to her apartment, I actually had like panic attacks. And I found it really difficult to walk through her front doors, because the building that she lived in was the building that I used to live in with my cousin Junior, my cousin Sean. And like I would walk into the building and see the same things that I tried so hard to run away from. I walked by his window, and I just felt like it was very important. It was so important for me to be a part of this and to do this, because there was like an actual force pulling me to this role and to this movement beneath the surface. And and I remember just jumping into the role, and I took a lot of inspiration from Junior, and I found his voice. The character that I was doing on stage, it was my cousin, and it was really nice to see him again. Sorry. So we had a lot of really great shows, and I put a lot of myself into that role. We ended up going to like Chilliwack and doing these residencies and doing workshops for youth, and that's where I found my calling. It's like, I need to help youth. There needs to be more positive influences out there that are telling youth to be themselves, you know? Telling youth to be the best they can be and to pursue their dreams if it's not hurting anybody. But I really found a lot of myself in Cody and Beneath the Surface, and this whole thing that we're doing with Beneath the Surface. It's been really healing for me, and I've definitely worked a lot of my own personal griefs and problems, and it's really like brought everything to the surface, and it's let me face everything, and and I had a really great time doing that role. I had a really awesome time being in front of those people and doing the whole play. The whole play is just so powerful, and everybody a part of it just has been so great, and meeting all these people that have been a part of the play, and meeting people that I actually looked up to as a young child. I remember watching like Ginger Snaps 3 and seeing Nathaniel Arcand throw tomahawks at werewolves as a young kid and being so blown away, because I was like, that's awesome. Like that's a role that, you know, like he's still like, you know, being like a stereotypical, but like he was like badass in the role. And I always wanted to, like, you know, I always looked up to that, and actually like the first time meeting Jen, like Nathaniel walks in and I was like, I liked you in Ginger Snaps. It's like the very first thing I said to him, and I actually learned a lot from him. He was a really good influence on me, so after Beneath the Surface, I started kind of just getting more roles as they came. I was in I did this play, Battle of the Birds, done by Savage Society for the Talk and Stick Festival a couple of years back, and we went out to Lytton, and I've never been to Lytton. Beautiful little space, and like the mountains and everything. It's in the middle of nowhere, and it was so cool to go up there and to pretend to be a bird, and to like just be it was a community production, so there was people in the cast from ages 6 to 60, and just being in that crowd and making that crowd laugh, and being there for the kids, and like being silly and pretending to be a bird. It was so fun. It was just like a really good experience, and I actually tell this story a lot on stage. The very last show, I was playing a character named Chicken Hawk, and I come into the thing, and I'm rapping. It's a rap that I come in, so I'm like, I'm Chicken Hawk, and I'm here to say, and I forgot my lines, and I froze on stage, and I totally forgot what Chicken Hawk was here to say, and I was like, I had never had that before, where I froze on stage, and it was kind of like this, like, it lasted for so long. And all my friends came to see that show, and we went through it, and we ended up, like, you know, stumbling through the end, but we got the whole play down, and I kind of held on to that for way too long. I think I did the Chicken Hawk rap every day for a year in my head, and I couldn't let it go, and I kind of used it as like an example, as like, you know, I have to not hold on to things for so long. There was this kind of like a big lesson for me is just to learn from my mistakes and press forward. And I've turned it into like a really great joke. So after that, I did. I just wrote some things on here. I did Thawaxia, the Hungry Feast dish with Axis Theater. That was an outside performance, and I played a spirit bear. And that was also another really cool, because I went from being a bird to a bear, and I had to find this muscle inside myself that I couldn't. I couldn't let go of it. It was such a fun, little cute character to play, and it was a play for kids. And that was the first time that my nieces actually saw me in a play. They came down, my whole family came down to watch it. It was an outdoor thing, and there's this part in the play where we go and grab children, and we run around the circle, and we pretend we're flying. We turn them all into birds. And my niece was the only one that came out. And so it was just me running around chasing my niece, having fun. But that was also they're always going to remember that, and that's why I'm doing this, right? And it was such a fun part, and I miss all those people. I miss everyone that I worked with. That's the thing about acting is you become a family, and you become so close, and then when it's done, it's just okay, bye, and everyone kind of goes off in their direction, and it's kind of a sad part of acting, especially in plays, because it just takes so long for a play to be mounted, to be a play. I also did Red Patch, a reading of Red Patch by Hardline Productions, and that was a play about the war. And I've always been, ever since I was a little kid, I've always been kind of fascinated and terrified of war. It's always been something that's kind of been, me and my brother have been obsessed with war movies since growing up, and I always kind of knew I was going to do something with war, and that was just kind of another thing that I felt like it was speaking to me, I needed to be a part of that. And I made a lot of really great friends, and the language we used was so beautiful, and that was a really great thing to be a part of. I learned these marches, these soldier marches. I remember one time I was walking in a forest, and it got dark way too fast. So I'm walking in this forest, and I'm trying to find my way out, and I started getting kind of paranoid and scared, I'm gonna get attacked by a cougar or a werewolf, or I'm gonna get attacked by something. So I started singing these marches out loud, and I was walking in this empty dark forest, marching and singing these marches, and I seen something at the end of the trail, and I was like, oh, what is that? And I started saying it louder. And it turned out it was just a guy walking his dog. And this guy's looking at me why are you yelling at my dog? But yeah, I carry tiny things I did Powaggan, Macbeth, Theatre Prospero's. We did that in Edmonton. It was Shakespeare, a retelling of Macbeth, but from a Cree perspective. So instead of having kings, there were chiefs. Instead of witches, there were Wendigo. And that was, honestly, it was a really tough role to be a part of, a really beautiful role to be a part of, to actually go back home to Edmonton and to speak Cree on a stage. I had so much enjoyment out of that, because not that long ago that wouldn't have been possible. There would have been cops outside waiting for us, what are you doing? So to be up on stage and to speak Cree and to speak these beautiful words that, it was just such a, that was surreal too. That was such a it was such a blur. When I try and think back at it, I can't pinpoint what my favorite thing about it was. the stage was so beautiful, like the costume was very beautiful. We put pictures on the website here of the costume that I was wearing
Oh yeah.
on the event thing. That was such a great experience to be in. My brother came and saw that, and my cousins, some like cousins that I haven't seen in a very long time, some of my old high school friends. My old drama teacher came to see, and she brought students, and that was incredible. I had a lot of enjoyment out of being able to learn my language, because I don't know Cree. I would like to be able to speak fluent Cree, but it was taken away. It wasn't spoken in my house. You know, my mom should have been able to sing us songs and tell us stories in Cree, but that wasn't the case. So going to do Pawaga Macbeth, going to do Pawaga Macbeth and speak Cree and learn like important words like Kiota Hawanao, the victory was ours.
Nice.
Like
Say it again.
Kiota Hawanao. Sorry, my character yelled it, so I can't not yell it. To be able to speak Cree and like, you know, and it was just so beautiful, and I met a lot of really great people doing that, and we had a lot of really great reviews, and I didn't freeze up on stage. So that was and here we are now. You know, like that. I've not been an actor for a long time. You know, I took a very long break in between wanting to act and then wanting to continue to act. And I feel like that's. I just love being on stage. I just love being able to tell my story and to be able to share things that have made me heal, that had helped me heal, and I just, you know, I really want to just like share that with people. I really want to be able to share like it's okay to be sad sometimes, you know. It's like I grew up, I didn't realize until I was much older, but I was very depressed growing up. I had a really bad depression, and I think art in a way is like the healthiest outlet that I have to work towards, you know, my own healing. And I haven't drank alcohol in 2 years. Like, I'm sober, and I feel great. I feel like I have a superpower. I feel like I feel healthier in my mind. And as soon as I cut people out of my life that were like drinking and stuff, like I just, like my life just got like a million times better. Like I'm in a Liam Neeson movie. Like, you know, like I feel like just a lot of good things happened that came when I stopped drinking. And it's not to, you know, judge anybody. Like, what works for people works for people, but it doesn't work for me. And I've seen it tear apart families, and I've seen it tear apart relationships, and I've seen it tear apart friendships, and it's just that kind of energy I just don't really need in my life right now. I want to just continue doing what I'm doing right now and inspire people. And I really want my nieces to grow up in a place where they're happy to be themselves and they're proud to be Native. And I always say, like, I want people to see me like as a Native actor. I hope the young Native youth see me a Native act. I hope they like pursue dreams and stuff like that, because, you know, there's not a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time here. Like, my dad passed away when he was 25, and I'm now 29, and it was a huge transition in my life to know that, like, wow, I'm older than my dad was. And like how hard it must have been for him. Like, I will never know. I never knew my father. And I will never know his struggles. But I just wish we could have had a conversation. You know, I wish I could have a conversation with somebody. Like, how do you miss somebody you never knew? Or how do you grieve about someone you never knew? Like, it's just such a weird relationship I had with my father, and
Coming through right. The thing that I feel with Imagination Productions and the Beneath the Surface Society is the workshops that we create, which he's going to talk about in a second, but the workshops that we create do come out of our stories. I do a wellness and nutrition workshop, and we use the medicine wheel in our creation of all of our workshops. But I contracted Lyme disease in 1999. I got bit by a tick on the top of my head and have lived with pain for the past 17, 18 years. And so it's no surprise that I'm also, Beneath the Surface was birthed out of, because I live in that pain. I understand what it feels like to live with pain, literal, actual physical pain in your body, where you wake up and you're just like, oh, I don't know if I want to get up. But I had to, so in any workshops that I've created with the Beneath the Surface Society and Imagination Productions, it really has been very personal to myself. And so a lot of the workshops that we did that Mitch was talking about prior to doing the play Beneath the Surface was a 4 Directions workshop where our leaders would hold space in the 4 Directions, and the room would be filled with youth. And it would just be a series of exercises. And so with the medicine wheel, and you see that image there, we use that as our template when we're creating these workshops. And even in the Sticks and Stones podcast that we're going to be launching in the summer, I'll be on the road and I'll be talking about my experiences on the road. But everything that we're doing, everything that Mitch has done as far as in acting and his whole journey from wanting to be an actor to getting here to actually booking things, because we book these roles too, we go to these auditions too, and like he said, it's always these stereotypical roles where I just thought, I don't want to play prostitute anymore, I don't want to play a drunk anymore, and that every now and again I get thrown out there for like a cop. So we're getting a little bit tougher roles and stuff, but there's still these stereotypical roles. And then Creator just made it really clear to me that my gifts were to be used in a different way, and my gifts are meant to be shared so that I can inspire other younger people, just like Mitch is saying, and so that those young people can look and say, whoa, he's from that town and he did that. It's like me too. I come from a small town of 300 people, and what do I know? But I'm hosting the 2nd season of a TV show on APTN, which is exciting. And it's the perfect TV show because I'm not stereotypically anybody but myself, experiencing our beautiful land and the truth of our history and the truth of our stories. So with the medicine wheel template, Mitch and I have been working together on Laughter as Medicine, and him, with his experience as an actor and a stand-up comedian, we've been developing this outreach program that he's just going to tell you a little bit more about, as well as his segment that he's going to have on the podcast, because you're going to have to tune in once the podcast is up and running, and we'll make sure to send you guys a link so that you guys can get that out to the community as well. But so with the Laughter as Medicine workshop, Mitch basically would be coming into your community, whether it's for a day or for a weekend. He's got some packages, but what's the gist of what you're doing with the workshop?
Laughter is Medicine. It's a 4 Directions workshop. It's aimed at humor and wellness, and how we use it to heal ourselves, how I use humor to heal ourselves. I want to teach youth about the different styles of humor, helpful and harmful humor. I really feel like that's a lesson that I learned in what humor is and what comedy is, and something I feel like is very helpful to would be helpful to a lot of people to understand what is harmful and what is helpful. It's going to be like tell stories. I want to do theater games and traditional games too. I want to bring in the traditional game aspect and bring that into it and teach people about those and teach people about the medicine wheel and how we do ceremonies. And my main goal is to go in and laugh and play and just have fun with people, and just have fun with the youth and get everyone moving and laughing, and just be a good positive role model. That's really what I always wanted to do. It's I always wanted to have someone come into my class when I was younger and pretty much do what I'm doing. Like, there's been so many times when I'd see like art and I'd be inspired to do it. Like, I'd see someone who drew something and I'd be inspired to draw, and I just want to come in and show people my art, and hopefully like they get something out of it. And yeah, that's my goal. That's what I want to do.
With our workshops, it's always interactive, and like I said, we use the medicine wheel as our template. So we really do want to touch on all those four directions: emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical, because all of those are very much a part of who we are, and finding that balance is really important. So as we deliver all of these workshops that we do, laughter as medicine being one, and then the wellness one that I do with wellness and nutrition, and then our four directions workshop that we just do, where we come in and we would have a team of four, because we do have emergency relief for communities. There's unfortunately still a lot of our communities are still being hit with mass amounts of suicides, and that's not okay. It's not okay. But I think that, what we've touched on and beneath the surface, the play that we toured with for 7 years is so important to talk about, and it's so important to create these safe spaces for our youth, and not just our youth, for our communities. I would love to have the whole community sitting in a healing circle and having these conversations. I have to give you this example. I don't know what our timeline is, but I have to give you this example and this is like spoiler alert for season 2 of Wild Archaeology, but I was filming, I won't say the location, but I was filming somewhere because, I gotta leave something for, surprise. But we were in the middle of digging in this one place, and I was digging in a midden, which is basically our garbage, but our garbage, it is like shells and bones and stuff like that. We lived in harmony with the land for thousands of years, let me tell you, because I like I said, I sometimes am 10 feet down into the ground and I'm pulling out, wooden dowels from a fishing weir, or like, a projectile point, or all the things that I'm pulling out. But yeah, I was in this one midden here on the West Coast, and that's all I'm going to say about where. and we're looking in the soil topography, and just looking and just seeing all these different levels of this, the shells that were in there. It's like, whoa, those shells are really big. They were eaten really well, and then all of a sudden we're getting closer to the surface, and the shells were getting smaller, and I was just like, and the guy asked me, why do you think that the shells are smaller? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe they just couldn't find any bigger ones. And he's like, think again, kind of think outside the box. And I said, maybe they were going in the night to collect their food, like maybe they were in distress. And he said, yes, they were in distress. They were collecting food. This is when the Europeans started coming over. And so they had to collect their food at night. And so sometimes they were getting smaller, whatever shells, like clams and whatever. And then all of a sudden there was like this level that was this big, if you can all see, this big. It was from the soil to the top to the ground that we're walking on right now. And from here to here, all of a sudden there was nothing going on. So there's all these shells, and smaller shells, and then bigger shells, and then everything that's going on down there. But from here to here, there was nothing going on. And he said, do you notice that there's no shells here? Do you notice that there's nothing going on? And I'm like, yeah. And he said, why do you think that is? And I said, well, was this area not occupied anymore after that? And he said, you see this right here, Jennifer? This is the soil that we're walking on right now. This is the smallpox epidemic. This is how close the smallpox epidemic is beneath our feet. It's not this deep. It's actually it's not, like it's close to the beneath us. And it's really, really important that we understand we understand history. It's really important that we understand where we come from. That's why Beneath the Surface Society is so important, and the play and the outreach program continuing on, even though we're not touring with it as a big cast, that can now be mounted by another theater company, by a community, by a school, or maybe not necessarily mounted. Maybe they just go through the program of reading through the play and doing the play and the exercises that are within the program. But it's really important for us, in order for us to come to that place where I feel I've come to, and where Mitch is coming to, it's that place of reclamation, and that place of reclamation comes from that greater understanding. I mean, that feeling of like not knowing something that's so connected to you in your DNA as your father, and the space that leaves in you affects how you move forward in your life. And as Mitch kind of joins those pieces together, he begins to understand more, who he is. And I even think as an actor now, like with me, there's been this shift of like, we had this like Hollywood mentality, this is what I'm gonna do, and now it's like, actually, that's not what Creator gave me these gifts for. It's not for me to go to Hollywood and sell myself out. It's for me to go to the people and to bring the healing in this way, because we've always been playing. We have stories from time immemorial that are passed down from generation to generation, and each of us, and as an Anishinaabe, I have stories, Nanabush, and and then you guys have stories, and as Cree stories, and we all have stories in the nations that we're from, and so yes, as we do these workshops, we want to bring all of that to the surface, so that we are able to heal from a really foundational level. Because our future goal with imagination is to see sustainability, is to see restoration in our communities, and that can't happen without us shifting the narrative and us understanding this. That's not that far, that's not that long ago in history. I mean, Canada 150, I'm sorry, but yeah, I've been like deep in the ground, and I'm telling you, we've been here for a long time. So there's no 150, there's like, we've been here for a long time, and there's so much to reclaim, and there's so much to be proud of. And so as we deliver workshops like Laughter is Medicine, and all the other workshops that we offer in imagination, which we're revamping our website, and all of those workshops will be up there soon. But I'd like Mitch to talk just a tiny bit quickly, because I don't know what our timeline is, but
Another half hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be doing a podcast called Sticks and Stones, which I've mentioned before, and I'm super excited about that, because it also gives us accessibility to a larger audience, which is great, because though we have toured the West Coast with Beneath the Surface, the play, and the workshops, we want to be able to reach out as far as we can. Beneath the Surface, the play currently is actually being turned into a feature film, and I'm in the process of writing that. Which is quite the process. I'm with women in film, Indigenous women in film, and I have amazing mentors like Doreen Manuel, who's helping me walk through this process. And then when we're ready to film it, then this movie will be accessible worldwide. But in the meantime, that's why the Beneath the Surface outreach program is really, really valuable, because that play itself can keep on moving in this beautiful package, which will be ready again next March 2019. So, anybody who really feels, we want to have that play, or know that if you do buy that program, that program comes with myself or someone like Mitch and some of the other family members of the Imagination family. We will come into your community, and we will basically do kind of train the trainer, or lead the leader, or support and nurture this process of looking at this show that literally, as Mitch just said, doesn't just affect the audience that watches it, but it affects any person who is a part of it, and it's life shifting, it's life changing. I mean, Mitch was homeless, sleeping on couches, not really sure of his direction, and in the time of doing Beneath the Surface and being part of this play and being able to channel his cousin and and even his own, things that he was going through, brought such a transformation in his life where he's sober and he's, booked all these movies and other theater shows and pursuing, and his shift too of that Hollywood kind of idea to realizing that he's got these amazing, incredible gifts and he's flipping hilarious. And why not use that in that regard? So along with Laughter as Medicine as an outreach program that he offers, which is immediately available right now. So anybody who wants to book Mitch and get in touch with him will have his information at the end on the last slide. But for Sticks and Stones, Mitch has he has his own little segment, which I can't wait for him to do, because I owe the places he'll go. and I really look forward to hearing, because hopefully he can continually be being the funny segment on Sticks and Stones, because I think that we're going to have a lot of discussions about, just lots of real talk. But tell them a little bit about your segment. I guess I'll go back to where are we? Oh, a brick wall. Never mind.
For Sticks and Stones, the podcast, I just kind of realized that I'm treated differently in public places. I'm treated differently in restaurants. I'm treated differently in stores. I get followed around a lot by security guards, and I just really wanted to put that onto the surface and talk about that, my experiences at fancy restaurants. And I really wanted to call it Honest Indian. That's the name that I really want to go with. And I want to talk about my different experiences at being at a fancy restaurant, how I was treated, or what I really want to do is in the future I would like to go to music festivals and interview people wearing headdresses, because it's kind of a
strange phenomenon.
A strange phenomenon, exactly. That's a perfect explanation of it. It's I would like to have maybe a tent set up and go to Shambhala or Burning Man, or places where they still allow headdresses, because they're actually banning them in a lot of festivals, which I'm happy. But not to be mean or rude or talk anyone down. Just interview people, and I just want to bring that onto the surface. And I really think that this podcast is a really good platform to begin that and be honest about what's going on in the world right now and what's going on in public places.
Yeah. So I guess we're open to questions. I'm not sure.
We've got some few comments and questions that have come in as you've been talking. So one here. First off, you are all very inspiring, talented, and beautiful people doing incredibly important and relevant work. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and spreading love through this work. I feel physical and mental healing every time I laugh, and Mitch's comedy has made me cackle many a time. So Mitch, can you talk about a specific time where you could feel direct healing through your own laughter? And can you discuss a time where you directly impacted someone else's life and inspired healing through making them laugh?
Absolutely. I remember the first time I was in grade 2, and I used to always try and make my teachers laugh, and my substitute teachers. I was always I'm going to make this person laugh by the end of the day. But I remember the first time I really got a huge laugh, and it was just so silly. I was just a little kid, and one of our substitute teachers, he was moving to Chile, and I remember saying something like, "Oh, that sounds delicious," and the whole classroom started laughing, and it just felt so. It felt so. I was like, "Huh, this is easy, and it's such a nice feeling." And I remember that day being very difficult for me. I had an altercation with an adult that was nothing too bad. It was just like an awful, like,
Awful experience.
awful experience, the exact opposite of what I want to do for youth and like inspire people, and it was just it was putting me down a little bit. And I remember that was the same day I made everyone laugh, and I was like, this is a way better feeling than what that person made me feel, and I want to keep pursuing this. And I'm sorry, what was the other question? That was one of the first times I ever got a big laugh, and it was big. I'll remember that forever.
So direct healing through your own laughter, and then directly impacted someone else's life.
There's a couple of my friends, I feel like we've had a lot of conversations where a lot of people have felt comfortable to say certain things to me because I say everything, I go off and I say everything, and a lot of my really close friends have confided in me, and they always tell me how super important I am to their life, and just going home actually too, and talking to my cousins and about like everything, and making them laugh and being a positive influence in their lives, like seeing that, like my cousins, like I need to talk to Mitchell right now, I'll always be there for my friends and family, and I don't know, it's just like those people have definitely benefited.
I see that the same question is.
Yeah, what makes you belly laugh?
Well, I think I make myself laugh a lot. It's kind of funny. I have a almost 16-year-old and a 17-year-old, and like I laugh with my kids a lot. We're just goofs. But I think I grew up with a manic depressed mom. She struggled a lot. She was going through a lot of her own inner turmoil. She's a very healed woman now, but back in the day, and that was my thing. And I've heard that about Jim Carrey too. Mm-hmm. My thing was making my mom laugh, and she'd be like, "Oh, Chad, you're a nut. One day you're gonna be on TV," and like all the time. And so I was called a nut a lot. So. Yeah, laughter's always been a thing for me too. I mean, when Facebook first started, I remember people being like, "Oh, I remember you were always smiling, you were always laughing." I'm like, really? I mean, because there were dark times that I was going through in high school, but still, I managed to smile, and still I managed to laugh. And I think that that's one thing that I've learned in our communities and my travels is, despite the trauma, and despite this, you know what I mean? Because this is what we're dealing with right now in history. Mm-hmm. And once we learn the rest, we're going to be in a better place. But despite that, we still laugh. And I think that that's a lot of the reason why it's part of our resilience is our laughter. And that's why I think, promoting Laughter as Medicine and Mitch's workshop and what he does, just by writing comedy and playing with comedy and making our youth laugh and just being funny in general, I think it's a part of who we are. It's a part of I think it's a part of our DNA, really, to just laugh. That's just what it is to be Indigenous. See?
Yeah, humor is so important. Our people have been through so much that we're able to laugh and heal heal through our laughter.
Yeah. And they do, it's a real thing. Like, you can do laughing yoga or like different games where you lay each other's your head on another person's tummy, and then they lay on, and it just keeps on going where everybody's got their heads on a tummy, and then the first person goes ha, and then the second person goes ha ha, and then ha ha ha, but eventually everybody's head's just going like this because everybody's just laughing and they can't hold it back, and it's stuff like that Mitch would be doing in his workshop, just really like bringing that play out, bringing that fun out, because like he said, being a bear or being a bird and laughing and being active and that sort of stuff, it's all a part of the healing. The talking and the shifting of the narrative, that's important. Understanding our history, that's important, but also just embracing who we are and embracing that part of ourselves, like the laughter.
How do you see youth responding to that, both that bringing in that humor part, but also bringing in the culture?
I find that the youth respond really, really well, especially now with where we're at. Like, we're at a time, we're at this crux in history. We're at this time where, you know, if you don't know now, you know. You know what I mean? It's like we know, and nobody can walk in this ignorance anymore of I don't know anything, because we all have these, we all have computers, we have everything at our fingertips, but I think that when you come in with a team or a group of people who, you know, we've been walking our journey and we've come in with these workshops, it brings it to life, and kids respond really well because they want to know more. They want to know, you know, especially a lot of kids who've been in foster care, or, you know, just those of us who walk this journey with like a crazy struggle and it hasn't been easy. You want to know more. You know, it's like I've learned so much of who I am as an Indigenous woman living on the West Coast because of the strength of the Indigenous people in unceded territory, because I come from treaty, you know, and but I still like to call my home unceded. but coming out here was a real reclamation. As a woman, I sing with a group called McGirl as well, and I'm singing our songs with the drum from all over Turtle Island, and that has filled my spirit so much. So, you know, they want to laugh. They want to know the stories. They want to know the history, even the stuff that hurts. They want to talk through it, and we're providing that opportunity for that to happen.
Yeah. Well, there's been a few other comments like saying, "Well said, Mitch. Proud of you. Looking forward to the podcast when it's released." It's so great to listen to you. It's the best way to start the day. I look forward to continuing to learn from you, with and from both of you. So, are there any other questions or comments for Mitch and Jennifer? I know for myself, it's been a real honor to sit with you today, and I just believe there's such power in the creative arts and humor, and giving our youth opportunities to engage in theater and arts, and giving them opportunities to pursue whatever it is their dream is, whether it's something like acting. And you're hearing your story, Mitch, and how important that was for you to find that and live that.
Yes, thank you. Well, thank you for having us. I want to just quickly reiterate what we have available. So basically, at this point in time, Beneath the Surface is being turned, as I mentioned, into a screenplay, which hopefully I'll be filming that by 2020. But in the meantime, the Beneath the Surface outreach program is being developed and will be available in March 2019. And that's going to be, again, this beautiful package of both the play and 7 weeks of teachings, the 7 grandfather teachings with activities, discussions, etc. I'm working with a few different people that I won't mention right now until it's ready, because, you know, people will change and interweave and be a part of this, and people will be added to that list of people. But yes, the Beneath the Surface outreach package, which is the play that we've toured with for 7 years, is going to be neatly together in a package with programming available in March 2019. Our podcast, Sticks and Stones, is set for this summer. So our goal is June of 2018 for that. And the Laughter as Medicine outreach workshops are available right now. So we have our email addresses here. So if anybody who wants to ask questions to me about the podcast, or the Beneath the Surface outreach program, or even Beneath the Surface, the play itself, and the potential of it coming to your community, they can reach me at my email address there, which is Jennifer with one N, .imagination@gmail.com, and you can find me on Instagram at Jennifer Brusso. And then anybody who's interested in Laughter as Medicine as a workshop in your community, and this is a really powerful outreach workshop. You know, it's a lot of laughing, it's a lot of fun, but it's you know, as we mentioned before, it's the use of the medicine wheel and creating that balance with our youth and coming in and leaving with them having smiles on their face. So you can reach Mitchell Saddleback or myself in regards to Laughter is Medicine at thesaddleback@gmail.com, and he can be found on Instagram at I am with Mitch.
And there's a question is whether there'll be a website for Laughter is Medicine.
Well, Laughter is Medicine is a production of Imaginations for now, and so it's we just this is a newly designed logo. So and right now we're revamping the website because of, like I said, in 2017 we did this 180 and we did this shift, which is beautiful and amazing because it's birthing some incredible stuff like the podcast. But yes, Laughter is Medicine will be up on our website, and I don't have the link to that right now.
It'll be on our website.
Yeah. So it'll be on your website. Plus, we're changing that link. So when the new without the Wix, we'll send that to you so that you can advertise that. But in the meantime, any question in regards to booking Laughter is Medicine can be sent to Mitchell Saddleback.
And there's a question here wondering who in your life made a difference for you in your preschool years?
Who in my life? My brother has always been there for me. Like me and my brother, we were very close. Like my mom is an incredible woman. My mom is like, she is my hero. I look up to my mom so much. She's helped me out so many times, and she's doing such amazing work back home. Like my mom and my brother, we've been really, really close and growing up together, and you know, like I think they've been a huge influence on me, and they will continue to be an influence on me. They're my favorite people in the entire world.
For me, it was Carol Burnett. When I was young, oh my gosh, I just loved Carol Burnett, and I actually do a show every Christmas called The Humbug that's at SFU Woodwards. This year will be the 6th year that I'm doing it, and a couple of years ago I was doing a song and I got to be all gritty and just like, you know, and when you're doing theater acting, you're putting your whole body into it. So like if you're an old lady or you're crotchety, whatever, you have to like put your whole body into it. I mean, I'm so sore by the end of doing this show. But there's this dumpster diva scene, and I'm like wearing, you know, just like I have to like, you know, go backstage, mess my hair, put the hat on crooked, and come out with, you know, however I chose to act the role out. But the writer of the song, because it's a musical, said to me, I bumped into him and his wife like a couple weeks later, and they were like, oh, we loved your delivery of the song. You were so reminiscent of Carol Burnett. And I was like, oh my God, that is like the best compliment ever. So yeah, that was my influence.
Someone says, remember the curtain scene on the Carol Burnett show.
Yes.
And Jay, that's a beautiful answer. Family is the core of who we are. And just another thank you here for you both sharing your gifts.
Well, thank you for listening.
And yeah, so we're just see if there's any last questions out there. But otherwise, I want to thank you both for coming and sharing today, and Mitch for sharing your story. I believe hearing our real stories is how we learn and heal as community, and how we connect. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and thank Davina, who's helping us out in the room here. And just to let you know some upcoming sessions that we have. So next week we have one on Tuesday on funding available for supporting Indigenous students to go into post-secondary. So if you know any students or are supporting any students wanting to go into post-secondary, you'll be able to hear about all the different funding options that are available. The week after that we have Warren Hooley here to talk about healthy masculinity. And the week after that, Indigenous Perspectives on Healthy Sexuality with the First Nations Health Authority Indigenous Wellness Team. So keep an eye out for upcoming sessions. Another comment here, your presenters are beautiful people. If you had one item each to share, what would it be, especially to our struggling youth?
For me, it's in my own journey, because there was a question earlier about what affected you in your childhood, and wondering who in your life made a difference in your preschool years. Unfortunately, the thing that immediately came to my mind is the sexual assault that happened when I was 4, and how that actually literally affected my whole life. It affected my understanding of my boundaries. It affected everything, and luckily we live in a time where we're much more psychologically aware. We're talking a lot more. But it's the reason why we do what we do. It's the reason why, in being a creator of Imagination Productions and Beneath the Surface, the play, and now the society, the importance of reconnecting to ourselves and really being honest in that reconnection. And sometimes that reconnection does come to places that are traumatic. But when you're able to recognize your foundational self, you're able to walk forward in a good way. And I think that goes to say, not just with horrible things that happen to you, but also good things that happen to you. But I know that moment in time really was like a game changer in my life. And in the last couple of years, it's been very evident to me that there was even still more shifts that I needed to make in the way of like codependency and really learning how to say no, and really learning how to love myself and value myself, and so reconnecting to that, but also even deeper, reconnecting to our culture, reconnecting to our land, reconnecting to one another, reconnecting, you know what I mean? There's these disconnects that have taken place, and we're just kind of like these fractured people that are just kind of like hobbling around, and that's what I would say to youth, and that's what we do say to youth in this work that we do, is it really is about coming back to yourself. And ourself, we're multifaceted, and ourself isn't just ourself. Ourself is also our DNA. Ourself is our ancestors, and not just the ones from 1 or 2 generations ago, but from like 7, 8, 9, you know what I mean? And we, like I said, we've been here a long time, so we can go way back, and understand that we are so valuable and we're so beautiful, and there's value. There is value in that reconnection, that reconnection to our stories, whether it's our own personal story or it's the stories of our ancestors. That reconnect is what's going to help you move forward in your life and be able to hold your head up high. No more looking down. No more, no more of that unworthy feeling. That's just a lie from only a few generations ago, and it's crap. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would say. Mm-hmm. You?
What was it?
One item to share that would be, if you had one item to share, what would it be, especially to our struggling youth?
Laughter is medicine. I feel like, just laughing is so healing, and the world's so crazy. We live in such a crazy time right now. But there's always room for fun and to laugh and be creative, and that's healing. Mm-hmm. It's medicine.
So the antidote to depression is laughter and play.
Yes, absolutely.
Being creative, having an outlet to share.
Singing too.
Singing, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Singing. I could have like a totally horrible day, and then I have a gig, and I'm like, I don't want to do this gig, and then I go and I pull out that drum and start singing, and what do you know, one song in, and I'm like, I'm just brought back to life, whether that's, and Mitch and I are both like currently writing scripts and screenplays and TV shows and all this sort of stuff, and even though that seems stressful, there is that element within it's that outlet. It's always finding that outlet, whatever that is for you, that healthy outlet, because there's a lot of unhealthy outlets too, but yeah.
Mine's mixed media acrylic painting.
Nice.
Completely shifts my state.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Begin into a lot of poetry and doing a lot of slam poetry lately too, and that's also been a really good healing way. And everything that I do, like I don't mean for them to have jokes in them because they're so serious, but I can't not make it funny, you know.
Well, I personally, from Imagination and Beneath the Surface Society, would like to thank you, Miigwech, for having us here and for giving us a space to share the work that we do and to share our personal stories and to hopefully inspire others. I'm not sure how many people we had watching, but thank you for tuning in. Yeah, and I forgot to mention, did you say your traditional name? Oh, I didn't. I'm like, it's funny. It's like this is all a part of reclamation, and this is all the stuff that I'm learning. So, Wabishki Migizi Kwe, Wairigo woman, and I didn't mention that before, but I think it's important because I'm speaking in my language, Anishinaabe. So, again, Miigwech, thank you for having us.
Yeah,
Good. Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you everyone. Have a wonderful day.